There were several amendments offered on the fracking moratorium bill. All of those amendments were resisted, and the bill moves forward to third reader, which means it will be voted on tomorrow for final passage.
How are you feeling about the whole thing?
I feel very good about it. I think that my chair, as well as others, did an exceptional job defending the bill, defending the merits of the bill, and concentrating on what the bill is designed to do, which is study the public health effects of hydraulic fracturing.
What is the necessity of this panel of experts?
It's our desire as a committee, and certainly my desire as chair, to make sure that we understand all of the science, including the new science that's coming out right now, and that's the reason for that panel. We don't want to learn how to drill. We're pretty satisfied that people know how to engage in hydraulic fracturing. That's not the issue. The issue are the public health effects, the scientific, the engineering effects, and we want to learn the science of it better than what the report that we were presented to us told us.
Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment number, let me uncover it. Amendment number 183028/2.
Amendment number 1.
Be so much considered reading.
So ordered.
The amendment. Mr. Speaker, this amendment would simply say that anyone that's on this panel that would review the health or the scientific information or the engineering information dealing with hydraulic fracturing or natural gas development this would indicate, rather than just stating health, would state that who are credentialed and experienced in the field of energy production and development. That no one on this panel could be a member as a person that's a member or works for an entity that is opposed to hydraulic fracturing. I move the amendment.
After reading this amendment, I would ask the body to resist it. In summary, what this amendment would do is it would allow people who are on the industry that we are basically attempting to decide whether or not to regulate would be included, and environmentalists would be excluded. It would simply, kick anybody who has some question about fracking off the panel, and I think it's inappropriate for that reason. I would ask the body to reject the amendment.
I looked at the study that you have criticized on the floor that took place after the last moratorium.
Right.
And what I worry about is that there are no experts on the panel. And I'm curious, in the one that we've all criticized that basically said allowing fracturing, the worst thing would happen is there'd be more STDs, there'd be more robberies, basically from bar activity, not related to fracturing. It was pretty embarrassing, I think, that our state supported that outcome. And I'm curious, did that study that this body put into action, or actually the governor put into action, include any people that have expertise in the process? Let's face it, you don't just dig a well and run it deep and do what you got to do to get the oil or the gas out of it. You actually have to, there's an enormous amount of risk and regulation, both from the federal government and from all the states who allow this, including all of the states that touch Maryland, by the way. There's an enormous amount of risk and liability, so they have to do it right, and they have to hire experts who know how to do this without allowing there to be risk to the environment. So why wouldn't we want to include some expert from the industry that has some background, who has done this, who understands the federal regulations and what risk might be if we don't follow those regs?
I'll speak for myself. I'm not a big fan of regulatory capture. I'm not a big fan of having an industry regulating itself. And I'm not a big fan of deliberately excluding environmentalists, which is what this amendment does.
Yeah, I don't agree with you, respectfully.
Well let me read it to you. It says, a member may not be implied by or be a member of an entity that is opposed to hydraulic fracturing. That's the environmental community that is being deliberately excluded by that language in this amendment.
The group that is being put together through this legislation ensures that there's some balance. And that's, I think, what we're trying to get to with this amendment.
I think by having the language as it exists in the bill right now, which only refers to public health and engineering and science, that is the balanced approach. And this amendment, in my opinion, Delegate, unbalances it, and that's why I oppose it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
On the amendment.
All in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Okay, roll call.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded the vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. Having 47 votes in the affirmative, 93 in the negative, the amendment fails.
Mr. Speaker, this amendment would simply, in this bill, this amendment would simply remove from the bill anything that applies to the region of the state where Marcellus Shale and Utica Shale is located. I am the only member of this body that has the region of the state that is entirely, the Marcellus Shale or the Utica Shale is entirely under that area where I represent in District 1A. So simply what this would do is say, okay, fine, you don't want to see this in your area, you don't want to see any activity, you're fearful that this may harm anything that occurs in your area, even though there is probably nowhere else in the state of Maryland that there are any other possibility for natural gas development.
Au contraire, mon frère. Well, the Marcellus Shale is important, but it is not the only gas basin that the state of Maryland has. There are, on this chart, 4 others: the Culpeper, Gettysburg, Taylorsville, and Delmarva gas basins. Well, first of all, the Culpeper gas basin, of course, the Marcellus Shale affects Western Maryland, and of that we're quite aware. But the Culpeper Basin has a footprint in Legislative District 15 and Legislative District 3B. The Gettysburg gas basin has a footprint in Legislative District 4. The Taylorsville gas basin has a legislative footprint in Districts 28, 29A, 27A, 27B, 30B, and 30A. And finally, the Delmarva gas basin has a footprint in Legislative Districts 37B, 37A, 38C, and a bit of 38A. Look, first of all, the amendment that's being referred to here mentions DNR and environment. It doesn't mention health, which is the primary concern that that I have about this. And so, and also to just literally remove the Marcellus Shale from this bill really has the effect of gutting the bill. If you really feel that way, you should just vote against the bill on third reading. Mr. Speaker, I would advise the members of this body to resist the amendment.
However, in Garrett County and the sliver of Allegheny County is what we're trying to carve out. We live in those areas. We understand the risks. We do not want to ruin our communities. I chose to move to Western Maryland, to Cumberland, to embrace Western Maryland, not change it. And all I'm asking is you be considerate about this amendment, please. Thank you.
Anyone like to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. Having 49 in the affirmative, 88 in the negative, the amendment fails.
Well, let me tell you something. The University of Maryland has, at a minimum, 11,000 acres, 1,100 acres in Western Maryland. That is all prime land for fracking. And what this amendment that I have does is requires the University of Maryland to put that land out for lease for fracking.
Mr. Speaker, the way I read this amendment, it appears to create an exception for the University of Maryland. You know, and University of Maryland's exceptional, but it shouldn't be in this way. My personal view is that it's really unfair to say that there's going to be a prohibition for everybody except one person, and for that reason I would ask the body to resist this amendment.
Would anyone like to change your vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. Having 47 in the affirmative, 92 in the negative, the amendment fails.
The amendment number is 363920/1.
Amendment number 1.
Be so much considered reading amendment.
So ordered.
This is a very simple amendment. The bill in its current form, as amended, requires or provides for a 3-year ban on any activity by the Maryland Department of the Environment or the department. It prohibits them from issuing a permit. It prohibits them from even accepting an application and even from reviewing the permit or accepting an application or reviewing it. What this amendment would do is simply reduce that to a 2-year term.
The reason I bring this up is it's very easy for us from all over the state to dictate to Western Maryland how to run their economy, but their people who voted for them believed in them so much that they voted for them in overwhelming numbers. And on top of that, their constituents understood that they were for hydraulic fracturing in this part of the state. So whether I understand this amendment or not, I know one thing, and that is the delegate from that part of the state got 99% of the vote, and the people there want this bill to go away. So I rise in favor of this amendment, and congratulations for those numbers, by the way.
Would anyone like to change their vote? Not the clerk. We'll take the call. Having 50 in the affirmative, 88 in the negative, 449 receiving Constitution.